So today I've got like a special guest, one of the people who everybody knows and loves or doesn't, or something like that. Um, I, I heard I heard he was available. I set a block of time for the blocker himself, Steve Shives. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great. You warned me the block joke was coming, but I didn't know what the specific line would be. So I'm glad that you saved the surprise. I'm doing I'm doing really well, and I like that's a great introduction. Someone who you either know and love or don't, because that covers it, right?
Pretty much.
That's it.
Um, I got a bunch of people together. We were going to do an intervention to convince you that Voyager was the best Star Trek,
Well,
you know, but none of us believe that.
oh, that's better than the block joke. I like that. You had me going.
Well, just to throw things into a strange perspective here.
Yeah.
Of all the Star Trek series, the only one I've seen in its entirety is Enterprise,
Oh, wow.
and now Discovery.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I
That's
miss.
that is interesting. Of course, there's only 4 years of Enterprise, so
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's not like as much of a commitment,
No.
and it's relatively recent. Like it was on TV, what, 15 years ago, as opposed to 20 or 25, like the others. So
Well, yeah, that is true. I mean, and Discovery, of course, this last couple of years, which
yeah,
I've loved, and
yeah, me too.
I
Especially the last season, I thought it was terrific.
yes, season 2 was
Yeah.
aces. I'm really looking forward to season 3. Um, so my basic questions, as I warned you, was what do you do and why do you do it? I found you through the 5 things videos,
hmm
which I know a lot of people did, and stayed for the atheist reads. Neither one of these things are a going concern anymore. But what what made you do it?
It started as, and I think to some extent it still is and always will be, an extension of writing. I've sort of fancied myself a writer, like, for most of my life, or wanted to be a writer, was always interested in writing things, and, writing about things that were important to me, writing about current events, writing about politics, and then writing fiction and stuff like that too. So the YouTube thing started as an extension of me wanting to be a writer and seeing that as an outlet for that. And, like the 5 things videos are basically just usually humorous, not always, but usually humorous, like opinion pieces, op-eds with a certain format. And they were just it's all just an outlet. Like, what do I do and why do I do it? I write, and then I present what I've written, and I do it because, like, I don't know what else I would do. I mean, even when I talk about stuff like social activist stuff, political stuff, progressive stuff, like, it just comes out. Like, it's just stuff that I care about, and I can't imagine not talking about it, and I can't imagine not trying to at least do something positive toward it. Like, even if all I'm doing is just making YouTube videos, at least I'm doing that. At least I'm doing something. It just feels like I don't know if I would feel as I would feel good about myself as a person if I wasn't doing it, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people would call doing, well, what I do now, but and what you've been doing for ages,
Yeah.
armchair activism, and I have a little bit of a problem with that, just because you reach a lot of people, and when I started watching you, I was pretty new to atheism, so the atheist reads thing was huge for me, and um, I almost wanted to take it over when you you stopped.
Well, the chair is still empty if you decide you want to. Um, I feel like I do think it's important. I mean, yeah, armchair activism is intended to be sort of disparaging, um, and I do think in certain instances it's fair to take people to task for that. Like if you call someone an armchair activist, like I don't think it's always unfair, but you know, you're right. I mean, if I think as long as you're clear yourself about what you're doing, and you keep perspective, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with being a quote unquote armchair activist. I mean, I have such tremendous respect for people who do it in person, who go out and go and take to the streets and get in people's faces and organize protests, or even just do behind the scenes stuff, but do organizational work and do fundraising and get people together and get everybody to know where they have to be and what time and what the message is. I have such respect for people who do that, because I know I couldn't do it. Like I don't have it in me to do it.
Well, yeah, same. We have a mutual friend, Monette Richards, who is astonishing in her abilities to be an activist, and doesn't get near enough respect. So I try and mention her as often as I can.
Yeah, Manette is amazing. Yeah, Manette is amazing, and yeah, she does exactly that kind of thing. She's an organizer. She's someone who has worked in, the secular community, the atheist community, and the organized wing of that for years. And there are a variety of reasons why I couldn't do it, or wouldn't want to do it, or wouldn't be well suited to that role. And I have such admiration for people who do it. But at the same time, I feel like as long as you keep perspective, and as long as you retain some humility about it, and you are aware, like, okay, I make YouTube videos. That's what I do. Let's not start acting like you're that much of a big shot because you make YouTube videos. But as long as you accept that and you have some perspective, it's nothing to be embarrassed about, as long as you're making the best videos you can make. It's nothing to hide your head in shame about and go, oh, I make YouTube videos. Like, you're doing your part. And that's hopefully what everybody can do, is you figure out what you're good at or what you can contribute, and then you try to contribute.
Yeah, someone like me who's disabled and can't really do. If you say do a march, I can give you a block.
Right, right.
So what else am I gonna do?
Yeah, well, exactly. And there are people who just don't have a particular skill set, or who maybe aren't good around people in person, or there are for all kinds of reasons why they might not be well suited to a more active, in-person, real, quote unquote, real world activist role, but can still contribute something, online as a writer or a video presenter or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I never thought so either. I mean, you helped me work through my atheism, so. And
I love how you phrase it, like it's some kind of a condition. I really had to work through my atheism, and he helped a lot with
that. Symptoms may include.
Oh boy, that's.
Do not use if you're allergic to.
Yeah, that's a long list.
Well, one of the things I've been doing with a lot of people too is saying thank you. When I first came out as trans, you and I had to, my income plummeted. You brought me on to a hangout anyway. You said I have to do it. And you and Christy Winters both did that. And I'm like, I am so forever grateful, because I would have just hidden away. I'm not sure I do. I'm not sure I would have gone back online for a long time.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that I was able to help. I think this is one of the first. I don't think this is the very first time. This is the first time we've actually talked in a while.
Yeah.
And the first time that we've had like a face to face, or like you said before we started recording, like a sort of face to face conversation,
Right.
since you announced your transition. And yeah, I mean, I'm I'm happy to have helped in any way that I did. You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
What well, I gotta ask the trans ally joke. Joke. Yeah, I can talk. I good talk writer. Uh,
yes.
um, I have to ask you about the trans ally thing. You you've been there before it was a huge YouTube thing, really. Uh,
I,
um, well, before Natalie came out.
yeah, that's right.
um, you early on. Quick funny story, or
Okay.
not funny-ish. I used to have another channel before this. When I first became an atheist, I announced it on YouTube because uh, that's eventually the way I did everything. Um, um, and I got to know somebody, and then we had a bad falling out, and then you recommended ContraPoints, and I go over there and I said, wait a second. That's the same person, and we have never communicated again, and
Wow.
it is still kind of strange because she was not large then.
Yeah.
You know, but
No.
you actually, well, since you live not too far from her, you I hear you met her in person back in the before days.
I if I you know what? If I did, I don't remember. I don't know if I ever have met her, to be honest. We do live, I mean, she lives in Baltimore and I'm in Western Maryland, which is about an hour away, but I don't remember ever meeting her before, you know, like pre or post transition. Um, but yeah, if I did, maybe if I met her a long, long time ago before she was a big deal, I forgot, but um, yeah, I don't remember. But she and I have talked. You know, we like we're not like super close. We're not like
Yeah.
best buddies or anything, but we talk occasionally. And she's someone that like I can reach out to privately, and I'll get a response. You know, but we're not like best buddies or anything. And I did a voice for one of her videos, like I think it's probably almost 2 years ago now.
Oh, autogynephilia. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I should have waited. I should have waited. And then because she blew up, she got so huge. Now she's like a superstar. I should have waited and said, now I'll do a voice for you. But it was cool. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
She's a
just,
lightning rod. She's a lot. I totally get why a lot of people are completely done with her. Like to be brutally honest. Like
well, I mean, you're a lightning rod too,
sure.
which is going to be the next subject.
Oh boy.
But I do want to ask about you've
Yeah.
been standing up for us trans people before, long before I came out, and what why
Why? What's the deal with that?
deal with that, you cis guy.
I was, I was bitten by a radioactive trans person, and no, I think it's just part of like you know, you become more aware of things that you didn't know before, and obviously trans people have always been around, but I didn't really know a lot about trans people or the challenges that trans folk face or all any of that until about probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. And it was because I started to have friends who either were out as trans already or came out after we became friends.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, you know, I gotta be, I don't want to be an asshole to my friends. You know, I mean, if I'm friends with someone who comes out as trans, I want to be supportive of that person. I want to be informed as much as I can about, what that means and what that's like. And if they express some trouble that they're having as a result of how they're being treated because they're trans or whatever, I want to know about that. And what I discovered was that it's the same fight that other groups have had to fight in the past. It's just now it's trans folks. It's the same basic issue as gay people. It's the same basic issue as racial minorities. It's a group of people who are mistreated for a completely illegitimate reason, who are held back and subjected to oppression and injustice and unfairness for no reason. And I don't see why anybody should be okay with that, whether you're a part of that group or not. Like, you shouldn't be. If you're a cis person, you shouldn't be okay with trans people being mistreated just because they're trans. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no reason why you should be okay with that. So,
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
plus being a ginger, I mean, I've got 2% and 2%.
You know all too well.
I know all too well. I'm not sure how much the ginger affects me more.
Wow, that's really the unsung tragedy.
Well, and of course, there's the elephant in the room. You've talked very little about blocking and why and how you came to do it. I know a little bit of the background story and how much of it. I'm not sure how much of it you want to talk about.
Well, we can. I mean, I'm not under any particular gag order to not talk about any of it. So,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the big picture, and actually, it's funny. Like, it's the sort of thing that sticks with you, and I understand that, and
Yeah.
I don't, but like, I don't really block that many people anymore, like on a day-to-day basis. Like, I feel like and that could change. I mean, if I start becoming the target of a bunch of online harassment again, I may go right back to blocking everybody in sight. But for the last few years, it's kind of settled down. The reason I started blocking people on Twitter, especially a lot, was that people who had much, much larger followings than me were tweeting stuff or making videos, attacking me, attacking my wife, attacking friends of mine, and inciting a lot of bullshit in my direction that was not only annoying and really, really bothersome, but just made it impossible to use the social media platforms in the way they're supposed to be used. Like, you can't get any real use out of Twitter if every time you log on, your notifications are 99 plus and it's all just garbage. You just can't use it. So, and it's better now. I mean, Twitter still has a very, very long way to go in terms of fixing a lot of its problems, as everybody knows, I think.
Yeah.
But it has introduced a couple of functions that just make it easier to deal with things if you don't want to just mass block people. So, it's better. And just the amount of shit that I get is just way, way down. Like, the worst of it has been over for years and years. And really the absolute worst of it, when people were like making videos about me and I was just getting shit constantly. When I look back on it, that really it lasted for a couple of months, and then it started to fade. And that couple of months was still completely bullshit. And nobody should ever have to go through anything like that for any period of time. But, it ebbed relatively quickly. But I'm still the guy who blocks everybody, which is fine. Like, it doesn't bother me.
Well, TJ has a lot to answer for in this.
Well, his transgressions against me don't even really warrant mention. If you look at his list of all the shit that he has done, it's like,
well, that's true.
I do think it's telling, though, that he didn't get really pissed at me until I sided with someone who said he was racist. That's when he really got pissed at me. He kind of sat out when everybody else was attacking me for being a feminist or whatever. He was just sort of like, yeah, feminist, whatever, fuck him. But he didn't really get pissed off until Martin Hughes was like, he's a fucking racist, by the way. And I was like, yeah, he is. And then all of a sudden,
well, you can't call the heroes anything. That's one of the problems.
Oh yeah.
Or anybody who with a large following. And this is, I promised before we started I was not going to bring it up, but the last
you told me to change the subject if you brought it up.
Yes, the last 6 months, if nothing else, has proven that, and I'll leave it there.
Yeah. It's before we commit to the subject change, I'll just say it's one of the frustrating things about this particular community, about the atheist secular community, is that every time you think they have taken a big step towards solving one of their problems, something happens and you realize, oh shit, nothing is any different.
Yeah.
It's like it keeps giving you hope, and then something else happens and you're like, why did I have hope? So
well, I always have hope. I'll even bring it back to Monette. I met Richard Dawkins, and then about an hour later, I started talking to somebody. I realized it was Eugenie Scott who introduced me to Monette Richards. Oh, these are the good people. Okay, yeah. I don't have to, be the toxic atheism is not my thing.
Yeah. That's the reason to hope. And that's the reason why I haven't just completely, thrown in the towel on the whole community and said, forget it, I'm out, as a lot of people have done, and completely justifiably, because there are people like Monette and like Stephanie Zvan and, PZ, I still think is terrific. And a lot of people who, and even people like Alex Jules, who doesn't really talk a whole lot about atheist stuff anymore, but is still kind of, he still knows everybody and is still sort of on the perimeter.
Oh,
and it's like, you can't just, there are so many good people who are still affiliated or unaffiliated, but still close by, that it's hard to just say, well, forget it, because that there are still good people around.
Oh, sure. Alice Ashton is on next week.
Alice is terrific. Yeah. Alice is the best.
Yeah.
She
helped me through my doubts of atheism, and then when it came time, she helped me through the trans thing. So
yeah,
I owe lots to her too. I owe a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, Alice is the best. Alice is one of those people, on the rare occasion when I do get to go out to like a function, like a meeting or a conference or something.
Yeah.
And it's always in this area because I don't really travel that much. And Alice is like 9 times out of 10, Alice is there. And we both went to the Secular Social Justice Conference in DC almost 2 years ago now. And we were walking on opposite sides of the street. We were like directly across from each other, and I hear this voice saying, "Steve," and I look over across the street and there's Alice. We're both going to the same place. So it was pretty cool.
Oh, well, she's, a lot of people there, and there are more people coming up. I think, I think Hope's sweat about that the old guard of shitlords are finally having had their day.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people, maybe in the less than 1,000 or up to 50,000 that are really doing some great, just trying to work. My phone's ringing and I have no idea where it is, so I can't stop it.
I love it.
I'm sorry.
It's not a problem for me at all.
Oh, dear. This is why I'm under 1,000. You understand?
Well, it's a slow climb. Like But yeah, you're right. There are, yeah, it does feel like, and again, maybe we're being too optimistic, but it does feel like at least the particular people who were sort of the most egregious offenders a few years ago
Yeah.
have sort of are on the downslide. I mean, they're still there and they still have huge audiences and they're still able to keep doing what they've been doing, but they're not nearly as listened to or influential, like outside of their little circles as they used to be. And that's encouraging. And it's encouraging when someone like Carl Benjamin runs for office and is treated like a complete national joke and is abused and belittled everywhere he goes. Like that's very encouraging.
I was going to mention him in particular. I'm saying, should I do that? No, I'll let Steve do that. I know he's going to do it.
Well, but it's because especially because I was one of those people. I was one of those blissfully ignorant, clueless white people like in 2016 who was like, oh, Hillary's going to win and Trump's going to lose and it's going to be awesome because Trump is doing like the YouTube shitlord thing and he's going to lose in a landslide and that whole thing's going to be repudiated and I can't wait. And that did not happen. And that was like cold water in the face, I mean,
Yeah.
and instead of vindication and going, see, like it's you all are the losers, not us. Like instead of that, like I spent election night fielding text messages from people who were talking about like how genuinely scared they were. Like they did not know if they were going to be okay. Because Trump had won the election. And so it was the exact opposite of the experience I had expected to have that night. And so after that, to have something like Carl Benjamin, run for local office in the UK and get a lot of attention for it, but all negative attention, and again, be treated like a joke and be dragged for being the misogynist, racist, xenophobe, rape apologist that he is, that felt good. That was like, oh, okay, so this can still work.
Yes.
Like we don't have to just throw this whole thing out the window. Like there are still enough decent people who will see this for what it is and go, oh shit, no, of course we're not going to vote for that guy. Like even if we find some political agreement with him, there's no way we're voting for that guy. He's garbage. He's toxic. Forget it. We have to do better than this. And that felt good. That was like, oh, okay. There's something to be salvaged here, maybe.
I did. I definitely raised a cheer.
Yeah.
It was, I think it was when we got fished.
Oh, that was so great. The fishing was even better than the milkshaking, I think. The milkshaking was nice, but like they were throwing milkshakes at everybody.
Yeah.
But when people started throwing fish at him, I was like, oh, that's good. They're getting creative.
Well, for the sake of the timestamp, we are actually recording this on Tuesday, the 29th.
Yes.
And on Halloween, the impeachment inquiry starts for real.
Yes.
And I bought a lot of the energy drinks, and I'm 24/7.
Don't want to miss any of it.
Not a bit. So
yeah, it feels like I mean, I've been saying, and I mean, obviously I'm relatively slow on the uptake. I'm certainly not, a bleeding edge type of person, but I've been saying for 2 years that they should impeach him. And others have been like, oh, who's poor Al Green, the congressman from Texas, has been introducing impeachment resolutions for like 3 years, and I'm like, God love that guy. He is my hero. Like as soon as Trump, I think like he did the Muslim ban, and Al Green was like, fuck this, and it was like, impeach him. He can't do that shit. And nobody else was like, oh come on, Al. And Al Green was like not having it from the very beginning.
Well, I mean, Obama did sing an Al Green song, but I think it's a different Al Green.
It's a different Al Green, but although I'm pretty sure Obama is a fan of both. I think Obama likes both Al Greens that we are discussing.
Very, very likely.
Very likely.
Yeah, the 2018 election gave me a lot of hope.
Yeah, me too.
And
me too.
I came out last July. I Weirdly enough, I've said this I think elsewhere before, but part of the reason I came out when I did was just frustration,
Hmm.
and part of that was political frustration. And I'm like, if you're gonna count people like me out, I'm gonna actually stand up and say who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Um, this is something I've heard from a bunch of other trans people. Strangely enough, that
Yeah.
so maybe Trump being elected was good. I can't even finish that sentence.
I mean, yeah, maybe it's something like I like to remind myself whenever I feel like I'm wasting time with something and or I'm spinning my wheels and I'm not quite sure what to do next. There's a voice that always pops into my head that says life is too short. And I don't know because I've never really other than being an atheist, which isn't exactly comparable to being a trans person or a gay
No.
person, because atheists are a minority in this country. But as I've said before, like, you can pass. It's not
Yeah.
like you're being mistreated on a daily basis by strangers because you're an atheist. But other than that, I have no experience with you know I'm about as privileged as you can get in our society. And but I can imagine, like, if I were a trans person or a black person or a member of some mistreated minority, thinking after something like Trump getting elected, like having a moment where you're just like, okay, what the hell with this? Like, what am I waiting for? Why am I holding back? Life's too short to just sit here and watch all this shit happen that affects me and affects people like me and is ruining our lives. Like, I'm going to start talking about this.
Yeah, there was about 10 different things that made me come out.
Yeah.
I did a video on it, and I'm like, I missed so much. And it was a 20-minute video. I'll just say all the things, and it's like, I left out Trump entirely, but that was a huge thing. He
Yeah.
said, "No more trans people in the military. Fuck you."
Yeah. Yeah. And just out of nowhere. I think the thing about Trump, like in general, and like for with his policies against trans people in particular, it just seems so callous and cruel for no reason, because nobody was even asking for that. Like when he
No.
announced like out of nowhere, no more trans people in the military, and nobody was even pushing for that. Like the Pentagon had gone in the opposite direction, had undertaken studies and gone through all these things to ensure that actually trans people could serve openly in the military and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And then all of a sudden, for no reason except probably some asshole who works for him in the White House whispering in his ear,
Steve Miller.
yeah, he just said he
Steve
decided,
Miller.
like, I mean, yeah, well, yeah,
No.
probably. I mean, I know with the immigrant thing, it's always Stephen Miller, but I'm sure he's not a big fan of trans people either. Something tells me that. I don't know. It's just a guess. Uh, that he just comes out out of nowhere and he's like, okay, no more trans people. And like even people who aren't necessarily huge fans of trans people were like, what? Like where did that come from? We weren't even talking about that.
I think a lot of his policies, the cruelty is as they say, the cruelty is the point.
Oh, for sure. Well,
I
because this is the shitty thing, and this is another one of those things. It was a hard pill to swallow, but I think it's important that we realize this. Um, his real diehard supporters, like the people who will not leave him no matter what he does, for those people, yes, the cruelty is the point. Like it's not something that they kind of wince at but overlook because they like something else about him. They love that. When he comes out and attacks people and is mean and vicious and petty and childish and cruel for no reason other than because he thinks it makes him look good or makes him feel like a big man to attack somebody and to punch down at somebody. They love that. They don't view that as something that, well, okay, and like they think that's great. And those are the people that go to his rallies and cheer for him. So those are the people that he's talking to. And I feel like we have to be realistic about that. Like you shouldn't be trying to turn those people onto your side. They're never going to be on your side. They think that what he does is fantastic. You know?
Yeah. I argue with a lot of people on Twitter, and I finding out they're Trump supporters afterwards is like, oh yeah, no shit.
not that surprising. Yeah.
Although there was a British MP I somehow got into a fight with too, so I'm universally beloved. I'm universally fighting trans people. I actually have a rule, since we were talking about it before. I don't block people at all.
Yeah.
That's my rule, because I mean, I will talk them into wanting to block me.
That's a more diabolical way to approach it. Like, no, I'm going to make them want to block me.
Well, I've been successful at it quite a few times.
I'm going to make you do it. It's like a magic trick. It's like, you make fun of other people for blocking. Just wait. By the end of this conversation, you're going to block me. I guarantee it.
I have a fish on the line right now. I know he's going to block me by the end of it.
I love it. I love it. There's someone you're working on. Like, oh, the block's coming any minute now. You just wait.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole social justice thing. I was around when social justice warrior was the good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, It is again, which sort of. I mean, AOC calls herself a social justice warrior, so
yeah,
when we got our queen going.
Exactly.
The one thing about him about the impeachment inquiry starting on Halloween is, I'd really like to see footage of Nancy Pelosi just knocking on the White House door and going, trick or treat.
Yes, exactly. But instead of candy, she's asking for the goddamn documents and evidence that they've been subpoenaing for months.
Absolutely. Oh,
yeah. I think you have some records for us, actually. Keep the candy. I don't need the little baby-sized Snickers. I need, like, the paperwork.
Well, a couple of Reese's peanut butter cups wouldn't.
Yeah, throw some in. Yeah, I'm not gonna give it back.
He would probably give Necco wafers. Oh my God!
Circus peanuts.
Oh,
loose, not even in a package, just like a handful of loose circus. Here you go. Happy Halloween.
You wonder if that actually, of all things I'm going to start wondering for the next few days is trick or treating allowed in the Trump hotel, in the Trump towers?
I mean, you never know who's going to open the door, really.
Well, yeah. Yeah, the guy who killed himself, who we will not name.
Oh, yeah.
He lived there for a bit, yeah?
He did.
Yeah, so, okay, I think I want to take back everything I just said. I will not wonder about this. I will have nightmares about it instead. Poor Barron.
Oh, God. Speaking of Trump and the impeachment and everything, you just brought up Barron. That reminded me of something. I forget who said it, but Trump was booed at the World Series game,
right,
which I thought was awesome.
Yes,
restored a little tiny bit of my faith in this country, right? Because that's what ought to happen. That's what should happen anytime he goes anywhere in public. People should boo him and hiss at him and cuss at him and throw shit at him and treat him like a piece of shit, because that's what he is.
Well, they chanted "lock him up."
They chanted "lock him up," and that was the thing. Yeah, people like Joe Scarborough and all these other people like, oh, you shouldn't chant "lock him up." It's like, okay, but what if he's an actual criminal? Like, what's wrong with chanting "lock him up" at an actual criminal? But someone said, it's a shame that it's a shame that Trump was booed in public like that, because I felt sorry for Barron, because nobody should see their dad treated that way And I thought, yeah, but what if your dad is a huge piece of shit? Like,
And
I mean, okay, I feel sorry for the kid because he's a kid and he didn't ask for any of this. He didn't ask to be born into the shittiest family in the world.
no,
And you're not to blame if you're a child isn't to blame for the crimes of their parents. Like I get that. I don't think people should be attacking Barron or anything like that. But to say like you shouldn't boo his dad because a kid doesn't like a kid shouldn't see their father that way. Like, I'm sorry, if your father is a fucking monster, you should see him as a monster. Like, how far should we go to protect a child's idealized view of their parent? I don't think that's our responsibility. You know, if Barron's is gonna grow up someday, and hopefully he's gonna realize that his dad is a piece of shit, and it's not his fault, and it's not his responsibility, and there's nothing he needs to do about it. But that's the truth. His dad is a piece of shit. You know, and it's not up to us to spare him of that.
yeah, I mean, Ron Reagan of all people
Yeah.
kind of has some idea of, you know, where all of that lies in history.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but he didn't take Barron though, did he?
I don't think Barron was even there. I don't think he takes Barron too many places. There was a really good joke on John Oliver over the weekend where he was talking about Trump and Syria, and there was a particular bit where he played a clip from Trump saying something during a speech that was, of course, just awful, just the kind of thing like just terrible. And John Oliver said, you know, thank God this man never had to raise any children. And I thought, like, oh, that's so perfect. Like he has children in the legal sense and the biological sense. He is technically a father, but he has never raised any children. Like,
yeah, I mean, how do you go to a ball game and not take your young kid?
yeah, the World Series. You don't take your kid to the World Series
I've taken
in the town where you live. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it was a Nationals game because was it? Yeah, it was a national.
Yeah, it was Nat. Yeah, that was one of the DC games. Yeah,
there was some point about a year and a half ago, and I'm not entirely sure why, where sports ball just sort of became a non-thing for me. Not sure exactly what happened.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery.
Well, I had something to wrap it up, and I've totally gone off what it was because my notes are in this pile of stuff that came with my speaker.
And your phone is buried under there somewhere as well, presumably.
Yes, which is sad. Before, I'll say it here, it's before we were able to get together. We were supposed to get together at 5, and there was a big accident. I had to go 5 miles out of my way. I rushed home. I plugged in the thing. The USB port was the wrong USB port for it. And I'm going, why won't the microphone work? And then the Zoom wouldn't work, and I'm like, okay. The guy, there are actually gods, and they don't want me to speak to Caesar Shives.
Incredibly petty, like low scale gods that are interfering in internet conversations.
Yeah, pretty much.
Looking down on you, going, we're gonna fuck her up. Make sure that she can't have a guest for her YouTube show.
So all my notes are under there somewhere, and I don't know where. So I've been just doing this off the cuff, which is the best way to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And we're both looking forward to Discovery. Do you know when Discovery's coming back?
Oh, I don't think have they set like I know they set a premiere date for Picard. I don't know if they've set a premiere date for Discovery. I think just sometime in 2020, which we already knew, but I don't know. But I am really looking forward to it. Like, I mean, a Star Trek show has never really done anything like that, where it's the same show and the same characters, but they basically hit a complete reset where you have no idea what's going to happen in the third season, because It's like they went 1,000 years into the future and you didn't see any of it. Like they left it in the 23rd century, and you're like, oh, see you next year. Who knows what's going to happen? Like they've never, like they ended the show on, they left the season with characters that are not part of the show. Like Captain Pike and Spock and Number One on the Enterprise are not going to be in the show anymore, but they're the last character. Like they're who we leave with the show with. And like, no one, I've never seen a Star Trek show do that before. And it was really, really cool.
Well, would you want Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek Captain Pike?
Oh yeah, I've enjoyed seeing the little glimpses of him in the short treks so far. He's popped up in the short treks. Just, I mean, he has like a scene, like he's there at blink and you'll miss him, but he's there.
Yeah,
and I love that version of Captain Pike. I thought Anson Mount as Captain Pike was wonderful. I love Rebecca Romaine as Number One. I think Ethan Peck as Spock is terrific. Like I love those actors playing those characters. If they said, hey, we're doing a Captain Pike show, I would watch every episode of it. And I love that Enterprise. I love that Enterprise set. Oh God.
They made it old. They made it both old and new in a way that worked.
Yeah.
And it was just, I had, my heart went a bit pitter-patter.
Yes, me too. Me too. I thought it was beautiful. I've said before in my videos, like one of the things that I've always liked about Discovery, even in the first season when I liked it but didn't love it as much as I loved it by the end of the second season, was I thought the way it looked was always gorgeous. I think it's the best looking, the best set, the best production designed, the best directed Star Trek series ever. And when I saw their version of the original Enterprise, it was just like, oh, it looks just as good as I hoped it would. Like it's the old Enterprise, and you can recognize that that's what they're going for, that's the bridge. It's that bridge.
Right.
But it's that Discovery aesthetic, and it just was gorgeous. Like you just want to move in there, like I just want to live on this set.
As long as I get a blue shirt and a very, very short skirt.
yeah you dress how you're comfortable.
I have very nice legs. It's the one advantage I have in being trans.
Well, then you would be serving on the right ship, because people were definitely, the dress code definitely allowed for people to show off the legs. That's one thing for sure.
Oh God, I very rarely wear dresses or skirts. Just to put that out there. Now I'm getting embarrassed. I don't know why, because anybody who's going to be watching this already knows who I am. So, well, we've gone over the thing. Voyager still doesn't suck, so
No, it doesn't. I mean, like, one of the things, and I'm used to it by now, but one of the things that I guess I always knew it, but I just had to be reminded of it, is that, there are Star Trek fans, just like there are fans of anything, that take it way more seriously than I do. Like, as much as I love it, and I love Star Trek as much as I love any art form or any popular culture thing, I love Star Trek.
Sure.
But I am, sometimes I'm almost eager to make fun of it. Like I like taking the piss out of it, and because that's part of my fandom. Like I enjoy that, and it doesn't mean I don't love it. I just see the little flaws in it, and I'm like, But there are people, like when I say negative things about Voyager, especially lately, when like I'll go way out of my way in a video to take a cheap shot at Voyager, because I know that bothers people. I'll go take such just a ridiculous detour to get one cheap shot in about Voyager, and I have to remind myself that there are some people who, because I do that, like they will think that I really, really genuinely hate the show, and I don't. Like no. I don't hate it at all. I think that it's the poorest of the shows. Like I think it's my least favorite and the least accomplished of the Star Trek shows, but I don't hate it. Like, it's not like if I'm flipping through the channels and there's a Voyager rerun on, I like throw the remote. I'm like, oh God damn it, they're showing Voyager. Like it's fine. Like it's a fine show, but it's fun to, have a little fun with it.
And some of the best Star Trek episodes ever were in it. I think the when the doctor had to decide whether to use the research of somebody who was a war
Oh,
criminal.
that was a really good episode. Yeah. And that's a great idea. And there were a lot of Voyager episodes like that where even if the episode itself didn't turn out that great, like the idea behind it was so good.
Yeah.
You're like, oh man, that's a great idea. Yeah.
I have, at this point, I have now collected every single piece of Star Trek. I have all of the original series, all of DS9, I have all of these on DVD,
Oh, cool.
and I'm going to start at the beginning and work my way through. I'll see you in a couple of years.
Yeah. Oh, what a journey you have ahead of you. There will be highs and lows. Such lows.
I've seen Spock's brain, so
yeah. See, that's the thing. I was thinking. One of my recent videos, I talked about. There's an episode of TNG called Code of Honor that I think is the worst episode any Star Trek show ever made. And I thought, I think I mentioned in the video, it's like, yeah, everybody has fun talking about like old Spock's brain or Threshold on Voyager or some other yeah, those are bad episodes, but at least they're not like super racist. Like the thing about Code of Honor is it's a shitty episode and it's super racist. Like that's got to be the worst one. There's no other show in the entire franchise. It's like not only is it kind of poorly made and badly written and whatever, but it's super racist.
I think I'm pretty sure Jesse Gender agrees with you on that. Yeah. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. But it's just one of those you're just like, what were they thinking with this? Like, why did this happen?
The guy with the blue beard who actually had some say in that, Ira Stephen Bear.
Ira Stephen Bear.
He absolutely agrees with you.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of those guys too where like, you as great as Deep Space Nine turned out to be, you wonder like, man, if Ira and a few of the other writers and producers on that show had been able to really do the show they wanted to do, and they didn't have like Rick Berman to get things passed, or Paramount telling them what they couldn't do. Like, I mean, because some of the things that they would have wanted to do if they could have, you think, Jesus, it would have been an even more off-model, weird, progressive, show than it was.
You turned me on to the documentary What We Left Behind, which was pretty damn amazing, and I want that season 8 that they were working on. Unfortunately,
I know.
Unfortunately, they killed Nog right at the beginning, and I'm thinking, oh well, that didn't age well.
Yeah, no, that's too bad. Yeah.
But one of the things that he did was apologize for blowing it on LGBTQ issues.
Yeah.
Which is, pretty big of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And is a very Star Trek thing to do. Like when you realize that you made a mistake or that you didn't do a good job at something, even if you didn't mean to, he owns up to it. He says, yeah, we should have done a better job with that. He doesn't, he floats the idea of taking credit. That's what there's that one scene where he's like, well, Dax was kind of like metaphorically a trans person. And we had some episodes where they were sort of, they could have been gay characters or whatever. And then he's like, no, like we don't deserve to take credit for that because we could have had like an explicitly LGBTQ character and we didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. And I wondered for years, incidentally, just on a side note, why Dax was my favorite character of all of Star Trek. Oh,
that's why. I thought it was cool. The thing about Dax is I feel like with her characterization by like season 3 or 4, she wasn't just like, well, she could metaphorically stand in for like a queer person. She was the most like obviously sexually liberated of the main characters. Like you
Yeah.
saw that she had relationships with people. She had like short-term relationships with people. She was very sexually open, and yet at the same time was like the smartest person on the station, and was incredibly competent in her job, and had different facets to her character. She wasn't just a quote unquote slutty character. Like she had all these different sides to her. And one of those sides was that she had a very active open sex life, and dated people with transparent skulls, which was something that Kira continually was like, why do you date people with transparent skulls? And Dax is like, because I like them, he's a nice guy. And so in addition to you can map like LGBT stuff onto her,
Yeah.
but there's also this part of her actual explicit character that is very sex positive and very open-minded,
Well,
which is cool.
yeah, the in the trans community, there the one meme that the one still that goes around is when the Klingon greets her and
Yeah.
says, "Curzon, my old friend."
Yeah.
I'm Jadzia now. Jadzia, my old friend.
Yeah, and it's no big deal.
And I only saw that for the first time recently, and I cried my eyes out.
Yeah, and that's a scene that is like 25 years old, and I'm sure nobody at the time could have anticipated that in future decades people would look back at that and be able to say like, oh, that's exactly what it should be like, for the experience of a trans person introducing themselves to someone who knew them pre-transition, to be like, no, it literally is this easy. Oh, what's the new name? Okay, I'll call you that from now on. Done.
At least they made it easy for everyone. Went from Chris to Christy.
Right. Yeah. Just one syllable.
Yeah, pretty
Just
much.
add a syllable. Yeah.
Based on two of my favorite people on YouTube, so Chrisiosity and Christy Winters.
Yeah. Can't get much better than that.
Spelled like Chrisiosity, and I actually asked Christy if she was okay with me using it. She's like, "Fuck yeah!"
Oh, really? She didn't give you a hard time about it?
Not a little bit.
She was like, "You're not taking my fucking name. Hang on a second." No.
There was so many stupid things I was worried about when I first came.
I mean, I can imagine. Like I'm the type of person that in certain situations I am like completely useless. Like I don't have a lot of anxiety most of the time, but in certain situations, there's just things that and for other people, they might be completely mundane things that you wouldn't think twice about. And I just cannot imagine doing them. And one of those things would be, I mean, something analogous to that, like asking someone for something that is very personal to me, might not mean anything to them, but I don't know. Like there's the possibility that they might take it the wrong way, or they might have a problem with it. And I'm just like, oh God, like I have to talk to them about this, but I really don't know if I'm going to be able to, so I can relate.
Now it turns out I forgot to ask Chris Little. So, so Chrisiosity didn't know about that until about 3 or 4 days ago.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Surprise.
So,
by the way,
love you, dear. I've always called her my little sister. So,
yeah.
There's it's the strange things I worry about is who I lose as friends, and I did lose a lot.
Yeah.
I lost all my siblings, which freaked me right out.
Oh yeah, well sure.
It's like, okay, well, I don't talk to them much anyway, so fuck them. But
I mean, yeah, at least there's that, but still, it's it's a hard thing.
Some other family, and it's But I try and I have a strange habit, and I did this when I asked you to do this hangout, of couching what I'm asking in a way where saying no is such a no big deal. So what I said to you is, how many subs do I have to get before I can ask you
Yes.
on? Which was kind of like, okay, you can take this as a joke, or you can actually come on.
Yeah.
And I super, 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 and I'll add another super. Appreciate you coming on. I think we covered everything, and I'll probably find my notes and have to ask you on Twitter or something.
A few follow-up questions. Yeah. Well, look, I'm very happy to be here. I mean, there was never, as soon as you floated the possibility, there was never any doubt that I would want to do it. Like, it was just a matter of working out the time and whatever. Because I mean, it's my pleasure, and we've had a good time. As I knew we would. I mean, yeah.
I like you, you like me.
What's the problem?
We're good.
Like the rest will just take care of itself. It's like when when Jason Harding asked me to do the Star Trek podcast that we do together.
Yeah.
And he asked me, because we were already doing our movie review podcast, and he sort of asked, I think it was after we recorded an episode of the movie podcast, he introduced me to the idea of the Ensign's Log, and he was like, would you want to do that? And of course I said yes, like immediately. And a couple years later, I think a year later, we were talking about it after we had finished our first season. And I was like, was there any doubt in your mind that I would say yes to that? Like, there's no way I'm going to say no, and it's the same sort of situation where it's like, of course, if I can possibly do it, I'll do it. Like, there's no reason not to.
Well, I did have a great time, and at some point we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, sure.
I have a lot of people on my list yet, so you're going to have to wait back in line.
Put me back at the bottom and I'll work my way back up. That's cool.
And so I have to end with, of course, the YouTube prayer, which is, if you like what you see, give us a like. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notifications, write a comment down below if you think we did something good, if you think we did something awful. And you could have just as easily done so and to everybody out there, you're worth something, your life is worth something. Be well. Good night. And I should